Welcome to today's Education Industry Customer Panel discussion. To learn more about the ways you can participate in today's event, please click on the Messages button in the lower left corner of your screen. Closed captioning is also available during this event. You can click on the closed captioning button in the lower left corner of the viewing window. Today's event is being recorded on behalf of the Microsoft Corporation. If you do not consent to being a part of the recorded session, please disconnect at this time. The recording will be available at the same location you joined today's event. We encourage you to interact by using the Messages panel at any time to ask questions regarding content or to request support. We will do our best to answer all of your questions, but due to time constraints, we may not be able to answer them during the live event. If you experience any technical difficulties, please first refresh your browser or click the Refresh Now button on the information panel. If this does not resolve the issue, you can send a message and we will be happy to assist. There's also an online test page if you wish to self-support. I would now like to introduce your presenter, Elka Walsh, National Leading and Skills Lead. Elka, you have the floor.
Wonderful. Thanks very much, Melina. And welcome to all of our participants today. We are thrilled to have you with us to share ideas with each other about what is possible in terms of the future of learning and teaching, and how can we change fundamentally the experience for students and their outcomes and their sense of engagement and student success, all with some really remarkable technology and innovators that are leveraging mixed reality and virtual reality to create experiences for their students. We have an incredible panel with us today from across the globe joining us to share the experiences that they have had already and their key learnings. It's my pleasure to welcome all of them today, and please do, for our participants, if you have any questions as we go through, please put them into the chat, and if we have time, we will try to take some of those questions with our panel. But otherwise, we will also be trying to respond in the moment should you have any more questions around their experiences and the technology and how it's been working for their students. First, I'd love to turn to Nancy Farrow. Nancy Farrow is the Director of Global Sales for HoloAnatomy at Case Western Reserve University in the United States. And Nancy, you have a few of your partners joining us today from three of the universities that you work with. Curious, first off, before we jump in, can you please introduce your partners?
Absolutely. Thank you, Elka, and the entire Microsoft Mixed Reality team. It is truly a privilege to be part of this event and share the stage with my colleagues. As Elka mentioned, my name is Nancy Farrow, and I am the Director of Global Sales for HoloAnatomy at Case Western Reserve University. I'm honored to introduce my guests. I have first Dr. Stuart Flynn. He is the founding Dean of Texas Christian University and University of North Texas Health Science Center, School of Medicine in Fort Worth, Texas. I have Dr. Tom Cosker, Director of Human Anatomy and Consultant Orthopedic Oncology Surgeon at University of Oxford in United Kingdom. And I have Thayer Merritt, Simulation Specialist with Mixed Reality at California Health Science University, College of Osteopathic Medicine in Clovis, California. Welcome.
Great. Nancy, I'm wondering if you and your colleagues can spend some time sharing with us the experience that you've created for students, and what are some of the outcomes that you've seen. Can you walk us through, please, what this opportunity around mixed reality, virtual reality for education in your context, what it looks like?
Absolutely. If I may, I have a few slides that I'd like to share. So let me just pull them up really quickly. And Elka, can you just let me know if you can see my slides?
Yeah, that's perfect. Great. Thanks, Nancy.
Excellent. Thank you. As earlier in the presentations today, you've heard Ori and Charlie mention Case Western Reserve University, and they talked about HoloAnatomy software. In the next hour, you'll hear myself and my colleagues talk about the HoloAnatomy software. But what is HoloAnatomy? HoloAnatomy software suite is an interactive, engaging, and immersive way to learn human anatomy with 3D holographic bodies. This product has been extensively validated and tested by a team of experts at Case Western Reserve University and published in multiple peer-reviewed journals. The HoloAnatomy software suite is a 3D mixed reality solution which is exclusively delivers instructor-led synchronous in-person and remote learning, the largest shared group mixed reality experience supported by HoloLens 2, customizable anatomical content with a library of close to 9,000 digital 3D anatomy art assets between static male and female models, intuitive instructor-centric tools for pedagogical purposes such as hologram positioning, custom highlighting, labeling, inclusion of instructor's notes and 2D images, as well as hologram scaling and much more. Optimized view of holographic models from a distance and up close, students can freely look inside the hologram, examine the delicate organs, and see through the layers of human body. HoloAnatomy is more than a digital anatomy atlas or digitized models of prosections. This is a tool designed by anatomy instructors to guide students through a lesson in ways that aren't possible in a cadaver lab. Our new health education campus opened July 2019. It is a multidisciplinary campus where a digital lab is housed. HoloAnatomy software learning platform is designed for medical, dental, nursing, allied health students, universities, other clinical healthcare programs, as well as medical device companies. This application teaches fundamental understanding of the human anatomy. This product is customizable and easy to use. The possibilities of HoloAnatomy software allows a view of, for instance, the entire cardiovascular system, the thorax region, the heart in isolation, or any combination of anatomy, including my favorite feature, a side-by-side comparison of male and female models, which our partners find very useful. Additionally, HoloAnatomy application allows interaction between instructors and students. Pre-COVID, this is what digital anatomy lab looked like at Case Western Reserve University. We welcomed up to 48 medical students wearing HoloLens devices together with their professor. Since COVID, remote HoloAnatomy software allows more than 100 concurrent connections of students who could be located anywhere in the world. If interested, you can learn more about Case medical students and remote HoloAnatomy experience in JAMA Network publication and, of course, on our website. I will be happy to answer questions in chat or during Q&A session, or you can reach out directly to me at my email or my phone number. And definitely check out our website. At this time, I would like to hand this over to Dr. Flynn to share TCU experience with HoloAnatomy software. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much, Nancy, and I appreciate the opportunity to spend some time here. I'm actually going to reflect on what Nancy just shared. So first of all, I would start with the fact the medical school I'm at, I've had the tremendous opportunity to build literally from the ground up. So that includes anatomy. And so in the conversations about how we would teach medical students anatomy, we all know what the gold standard has been for decades and decades, and that's cadaveric dissection anatomy. And that serves some very powerful purposes. It also has areas with some deficiencies. So when I first started working with Nancy and her team at Case Western and got exposed to HoloAnatomy, I immediately realized this was the perfect blend of mixing cadaveric anatomy with HoloAnatomy. And because I got to build the curriculum from scratch with my team, this was our chance to move it forward a little bit from the past. So it has worked out phenomenally, I will say. we're still on this journey, and I just want to share a few thoughts of what that journey looks like for us right now from the student's lens and then from the educator's lens. So as Nancy mentioned, when the pandemic hit, although we weren't fully built out at that time, that was an opportunity when our students could not come into the anatomy lab. That didn't have to halt suddenly, and we just had to wait until we came back. So that ended up being a very nice opportunity for us to continue the students' anatomy training. And needless to say, it's been very tough on them. That would have been one more area where they would have been very frustrated by not being able to continue that training. Where have we brought it in? We've brought it in not just in teaching anatomy, we've brought it into our clinical skills work, where now the students can use aligned surface landmarks in their clinical skills with their standardized patients, but then do the correlate with the HoloAnatomy. Very, very powerful, for instance, of where to place your stethoscope, and then why are you hearing the sounds that you're hearing. So we've been very pleased with that. We have built this in to a cardiac, and I apologize, that's one of my dogs barking, the foibles of being on a virtual reality. We've built this into, for instance, one module, an ultrasound module, and we have the ultrasound and the HoloAnatomy kind of in tandem. Once again, a perfect opportunity for medical students to see two different windows of how they would and can see anatomy. And then the last thing I would say is we're looking for areas now to expand. So we not only find this very efficient, very powerful in regards to teaching, where can we go next? And several of you are doing the same. So one is to integrate physiology into the anatomic models. That'll be very hard, but that's a goal we have put in front of ourselves. I personally am a pathologist, so I'd love to start building pathology modules in the HoloAnatomy arena. And then lastly, and I would say dreaming big, but one of you may tell me you're already doing this, to bring haptic gloves into the students with HoloAnatomy so they can experience both the visual and the tactile component. So I would conclude by saying we could not be more pleased. Our students very much love it. This generation enjoys this modality tremendously. But I would say we're very early in that journey, and we are going to try to challenge this and bring it into other arenas to expand our curriculum and make the teaching stick rather than just teaching. So thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you very much, Stuart. And I really appreciate a few things that you said. Giving time for the teaching to stick, and time for the educators to experience what it's like to adjust their practice to get better outcomes for students. But also that focus on the experiential for your students, not just the visual, but the tactile as well as the next frontier for you. I think we'll all be watching with bated breath to see how this turns out, because it is, in fact, that time to autonomy and mastery of the skill sets as they are really engaging in a very safe but an experimental environment. So that really resonated for me.
Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you. I'd like to turn now to Tom Cosker, Dr. Tom Cosker. Tom, I wonder if you can share a little bit about the experiences that you've been having with your students.
Yeah, thank you very much. Well, a very good afternoon to everyone from the UK here, and thank you very much for giving me this opportunity. And first of all, I should just say a very big thank you to Nancy and the Microsoft team. But particularly the guys at Case Western who really have put a huge amount of work over the past few years into getting this project where it's got to, and really hugely impressive results. I really think I genuinely think we'll look back on this period in the future as being a new industrial revolution. I really do genuinely believe that. And, analogous to, I remember when I first held a smartphone, and now for my children, they're more familiar with the smartphone than I am. I really think that this is going to be an exciting new development for the future. As the previous speaker said, anatomy has previously been all about learning from cadavers and then translating that knowledge from textbooks and from other media to try and really learn the anatomy as best we can. But, we all learn in very different ways. Some of us are very visual, some of us are book readers, some of us are audio learners. And of course, all of us have had the experience over the years of trying to learn information that we can regurgitate simply to pass an exam. And really, from my perspective as a surgeon, and for the previous speaker as a pathologist, really that's fine. We all need to pass exams in life, but what we really need is this sort of cradle to grave philosophy where we're empowering our students to learn this information that they'll not just keep for 6 months to pass an exam or a year to pass their final exams, but actually for the next 10, 20, 30 years of their career. So I think that the strength of the HoloLens is the fact that because it's so very visual and immersive, and that when you're using it, you're just so absolutely integrated yourself and with your colleagues that it just really takes the anatomy from the textbook to something much more visual and lifelike that just seems to ingrain itself in the student's brain, and that they will remember for years to come. And we here in the UK, we are absolutely still very much committed to using cadavers for teaching, but I'm sure many of the people on this call will have had the experience or spoken to people who actually in reality find that it's often difficult to see things, it's very difficult to understand concepts. By the time a cadaver has been used several times, it's pretty dated and it's difficult to use, and some of the parts of the cadaver actually physically disintegrate. So actually, some of the value of that learning can be very challenging. And what I love about this, and as we've touched on already, the pandemic has accelerated this, is the fact that we now have a medium that, as long as we've got a Wi-Fi signal, we can use wherever we are. We can use with a whole variety of teachers. We can revise from it, so we can either learn as a group or individually. We can reiterate, and we can just really ensure that whatever we're learning, whether that's anatomy or physiology or whatever it happens to be, that we're not just learning it for the short term, but for a much longer term memory. We're embedding it into that part of our brain which ensures that we've got that here in the next 10, 20, 30 years. And I think just my final point really would be that the importance of anatomy for me as a surgeon is, when you're standing there at 3 o'clock in the morning and you're trying to put a chest drain in, or you're trying to deliver a baby, or you're trying to stop some bleeding from the abdomen, and that anatomy is somewhere there in your brain, but you need it there. You need that recall to be able to remember what you were taught all those years ago. And for so many years, I think the problem has been that our medical students haven't necessarily understood the importance of what they've been learning. They haven't understood the clinical relevance. But I honestly believe that we will use this next industrial revolution with technology like HoloLens to really embed that knowledge for our students for years to come. Thank you.
Tom, thank you very much. I think you really hit on some of those key elements that we know about the science of learning and the way that we can really learn deeply. That recall, as well as the opportunity to engage not just with static content from a textbook, but all of our learning styles in order to really develop that mastery and to shorten that time frame, though. So I really appreciate the way that you've been utilizing the technology to empower that within your students to really put into what might be hyperdrive, that time frame to mastery and leveraging that science of learning to have that kind of student success. Thank you very much, Tom. Thayer, I wonder if we can turn to you now. Thayer, I understand that at your university, you're also using the HoloLens technology for your students. Wonder if you can share with us around the experiences that you're seeing and how the technology has been leveraged and the outcomes for your students.
Yeah, thank you, Elka. So I am actually a simulation specialist with a focus in mixed reality here at the California Health Sciences University College of Osteopathic Medicine. So I'm a big support player here. Like Dr. Stewart, we have a new program here, and we needed to figure out how we were going to be teaching anatomy. And when our this was pre-me, when our simulations center director and dean were evaluating options, they came across the holographic anatomy platform. They thought, well, what is this? So they reached out to Case Western Reserve University and their interactive commons team, where they very soon after went and had a demo of this platform, and they were immediately sold. They knew it was going to be a very, very versatile, strong, and interactive way for our students to be learning anatomy. So they came back, they discussed it with the administration at a very high level here at the university, and the decision was made. We were going to be doing holographic anatomy, and that was a really big decision here since we're a new school. But with that came a couple of hurdles that we needed to overcome. We needed to find someone that understood mixed reality. We needed to get our faculty trained on what it is and how are we going to be using this in the classroom. Well, what are the space requirements? We have to get 90 devices out. That's crazy. We need to get these to our students, train them, and then ongoing maintenance. So with that, we actually started out. I started, and 2 weeks later, while I was on a plane back in August of 2019 with three of our faculty members and our simulation center director, where we went to the Case Western Reserve University and had a couple of days with their team, where we actually went and trained with them. And here's a photo from that session. Two of our faculty members going and actually working with their group, and it really took off a lot of that edge for how do we do this. So it starts out where you would learn the design tool, and you have to figure out, well, what am I going to be doing? How would I want to be showing my students? What do they need to know? So I worked very closely with our anatomy faculty after we returned, and worked through going and training them on and practicing how we're going to be doing our lessons. And so going from the backwards design, we were able to go from the back forward and add in labels, what's important, what's not, what can you see, what can't you see. And we dedicated a lot of time to make sure that it was going to be a very good experience for our students and for our faculty delivering. So we learned how to do it. We needed to figure out how we were going to do it. Like, where are we going to be doing this? Can we do it in the classroom? Can we do it in our living rooms? Can we do it? How are we going to do this? So we were originally planning on having a cadaver lab, which is a large refrigerated room and with special plumbing and that sort of. Well, we didn't need that anymore. So, well, we have this big empty classroom now. Why don't we do anatomy in there? Which would work great in non-COVID times. So, March rolled around and we needed to revise this plan. So we decided to go into the classroom and practiced and see if it was going to work. And so here's a shot of our instructor and associate dean practicing and seeing, is this going to work in our space? So we went through and found that having it in our large classroom was going to work very, very well, especially since we were planning on having classes in person. But with that large space, we were able to spread everybody out and make sure that we had our groups that had enough room to check out their anatomical model, but as well as not be overly packed in this area. So that was our physical space requirement. So we have our space, we have our training. So now we have all these devices that we need to get to our students. So we were able to get a hold of 10 devices early to do training and practicing on, but we needed to get 80 more for our students because all of our students are having a device of their own. where they will be able to take it home, do this in their living room, do this after they graduate, or not after they graduate, but after they're like on rotations. So we had 80 devices we needed to get out to students. So I worked with the Microsoft deployment tools where we deployed out all these 80 devices. This is kind of my setup I had, where we used provisioning packages and prepared all the devices out for installation, installed the HoloAnatomy platform, gave them some instructions, and at the end of the day, that was what we were ready to go. We were ready to issue out all of our devices to our students. Yes, it was a daunting endeavor, but we got there. Provisioning packages, all learning how to do that. The IT hat paid off, so we were ready to go. So first day of class, we needed to get these out to students, and I had a member of my simulation team as well as an instructor who was going to be doing the lesson that day, and some other faculty members who were familiar with the tech started issuing out the devices. And my suggestion for the students was turn on the device, follow the instructions on how to bring up the start menu, and go immediately to the Tips app that Microsoft created within the HoloLens. That is a fantastic way to get comfortable with the device. They were ready to go and understood how buttons worked by the time that we were ready to go and start our lesson. So less than 15 minutes, it was a very good experience for them. So in class, we went through that, and then we learned how to anchor to make our models be in the same place and that sort. I was using mixed reality capture on my headset, and this so that they could see what they should be seeing. And for the most part, the floating around and making sure that everybody was on the same page worked out very well. And we did a quick lesson. So here's class. It's a bit crazy. All of us are standing around and looking at models. We're not looking at anything physically, but we've got our holographic model right in the middle, and it worked out very well. So ongoing, I'm available for our students for technical support that they may have with the HoloLens device, as well as any suggestions that they're thinking for what might be a good application in the future. And that's how we're doing. We've got a lot of very good feedback here, and being on the support side of it has really been a lot of fun. So thank you.
Amazing. Thank you very much there. I really appreciate the different lens that you've brought to this, because we often think about the future of learning and think, oh my gosh, it's a road of transformation that may be just too far for us and too risky. And I really appreciate some of the insights you've shared around, making sure you've got the time for your instructors and faculty to train and be ready and have that leadership buy-in as well. Everything from practicing lessons and giving that safe space to do it, but then the incredible rethink around what kind of capital space do we actually need, which changes your cost models, and then all of that student support to make sure that your students are actually ready to engage in the learning, and making sure that they're set up for that success before they ever engage with the content. So thank you very much for sharing that with us. Now, I am really excited to turn now to my colleague, Shruti Natarajan, who is from CAE Healthcare and is a product manager there. Shruti, I know you've brought one of your colleagues with you, and wondering if you can share with us your experiences now and what you're doing from the perspective of student engagement and student success using mixed reality.
Sure. Thank you so much, Elka, and privileged to be here, pleasure to be here in this panel. There's a lot of wisdom, especially when it comes to extended reality. I am a product manager with CAE, and I manage the commercialization of a portfolio of very exciting and cutting-edge digital products. The extended reality or the mixed reality products, suite of products being one of them. And it's my honor today to have with me our guest, Dr. Jared Staub, who is the Assistant Professor and Program Director for the Critical Care Anesthesiology Fellowship at the University of Kansas Medical Center. Dr. Staub is not just a great subject matter expert for us, but he's also an incredible source of wisdom when it comes to bringing extended reality to healthcare. He's an avid technologist, and thank you so much today for joining us today, Dr. Staub.
Thanks for having me. I think Shruti might be a little too kind. I just have fun playing with a lot of the mixed reality toys. So, but it's good to be here. It's good to be here. And kudos to the Case Western team for all the talent you have there and for some of the examples you've set. So thanks for having me.
Yeah, thanks. So coming back to, talking about our journey with, the HoloLens platform, I might sound repetitive, but at best reinforcing everything that the HoloAnatomy team has stated here, because our experience has been quite similar. So our journey with the HoloLens platform began in 2017 when we built the augmented reality application on our ultrasound simulator platform called Vimedics. And it was customer delight from get-go. And this was mainly because the technology resonated with our ethos and our product design philosophy, which was to enable a student or a learner-centered training approach. And what this entails is basically building a very collaborative and supportive environment where the learner can not only interact and engage, but also construct the knowledge, as opposed to it being transmitted by an instructor. And the instructor itself becomes more of a facilitator or a partner in the learning. And there is a very deep emphasis on that, building that deep concepts like everybody on this panel has been talking about, and with ongoing feedback. So what this would look like in terms of our applications is that when there's a learner that needs to learn how to treat a patient with a heart attack or a stroke, or even deliver a baby on breech, then they are now able to visualize that internal anatomy in that multidimensional form, where they can literally walk around and immerse their head into a beating holographic heart. So it's really great. And what we've also done is build that didactic experience by combining the augmented reality with our simulators. So in case of biomedics, for example, you can actually see the sonography cutting through the anatomy. And with this, they not only are able to learn the didactics of the probe placement, but also understand the information under that imaging. So this is, again, resonating with what Dr. Tom was talking about, is, building that knowledge, not just for today, but for years to come. And that is incredibly, an incredible benefit of the solution. So, I would like to, at this point in time, share a video with our audience because they can really visualize what I'm talking about. So if that can be played, that'll be great.
I came in completely blank slate. I had no idea what to expect. I'm not a gamer.
The students that were with me today were having so many aha moments.
It was incredible to be able to have a live body in front of you with the heart pumping in real time.
We were able to observe an MI taking place.
It goes beyond note cards, it goes beyond PowerPoints, it goes beyond the textbook.
Our students go through a very dense curriculum at a very fast pace. They're expected to retain so much information, and a lot of it novel information. They're working in an emergency department and a patient presents. They have something to reflect back on.
I can really help our teaching actually in the classroom, make it far more interesting, make it more real.
If this was available for me to take home, then I can take it with me there and study the human body in that kind of form, in a three-dimensional form.
The possibilities are endless. In fact, with this kind of technology, the only limitation is we, the faculty, and what we think we can do with it.
That's going to help students respond better. It's going to help them go through their Rolodex of how should I manage and achieve a better differential diagnosis.
I will definitely reflect onto this experience and use it as a foundation to get me to understand what is really going on physiologically with my patients.
These students have to come out prepared to take care of patients at the bedside. I want them to have whatever it takes, whatever we can provide, to become the best providers.
Shruti, thank you very much for sharing that video. I wonder if there's a little bit more commentary you can help us understand a little bit more now that we've seen that very inspiring video and actually hearing the voice of your student in it as well.
Yes, absolutely. So as you can see, we have 3 of those applications ranging from Aries AR for emergency care to Lucina AR for childbirth care, and also Vimedix AR that I was telling you about, which is to do with the ultrasound simulation training. So going the full array of solutions across these platforms, what these applications do is allow learners to either have a self-paced learning experience on their own, or do this in groups or along with the instructor, and they can do this on a standalone basis where they just use a table and have the holographic patient, or they can combine this with the simulator to have that full didactic plus visual learning experience. And so we have this, which is for the pre-licensure and the post-licensure students, but we also have learners, but also we work a lot with healthcare OEMs as well, where we develop customized solutions for the medical device and equipment companies and pharmaceuticals. And there again, the benefit of this technology is multifold, and one can clearly visualize the benefit of the particular medical device or drug in that true multi-dimensional form, but also it creates a very safe environment for repetitive learning with that amazing visualization. And all of this leads to significantly lowering complication risks associated with using that particular medical device or drug in procedures. So we have a full array of these solutions, and with all these benefits and benefits and value that this platform has brought to us, across these solutions, we have more than 800 users today of our solutions on the HoloLens platform. And this is very validating for us, not only to understand the potential of this technology, but also the direction that we've taken with this platform. So I think I should stop talking, and we have one of our top users here, Dr. Jared Staub, who has used the application both on the HoloLens 1 and HoloLens 2 platform. And I'd like to ask him about his experience and what he thinks are the big aha moments for him.
Yeah, thanks, Shruti. And I think the aha moment starts when you put the device on your head. So I've had I've had the HoloLens 1 on my daughter when she was 4, and she instantly knows how to use it, and you see the smile on their face. And I've had them on my colleagues that were 65 years old, and you see the smile on their face. And so that's the first aha moment, and you really know that you have something powerful there. And so everything that we're talking about is innovation. It's taking tools that are there and putting it together in new uses. And so from the anatomy standpoint to watching the physiology to even moving on to seeing the pathology is really, really powerful. And so we use this all the way from med students to residents to fellows, even in continuing medical education for our colleagues that have been out there for quite some time. And the advantages are immense. And, really, I think with the evolution from the HoloLens 1 to the HoloLens 2, or the ability to capture metrics and figure out how are people learning in mixed reality. There are a lot of forces coming together that are pushing us in this direction. The cost of healthcare is increasing, the cost of medical education is increasing. The last time I looked, which was just a few months ago, medical knowledge was doubling at a rate of, every 73 days. And so we look at the 1950s and it's every 50 years. So we've got exponential growth, but we're not increasing our time in training. So what this tells us is that we have to be more efficient in our time and the money that we spend in training our healthcare leaders all across the spectrum. And the way to do that is to really individualize the learning plan. So, to echo, the talented people that spoke ahead of me, this allows you to do that. It does it by multiple ways. So first of all, when the user enters a mixed reality, it's exciting. It captures their attention. They're more engaged. They're more focused. We think of PowerPoints and losing someone's attention at 20 minutes. And really the learner is engaged. They're learning at their own pace. You use systems like, the Vimedic system to where not only can you see the anatomy, you can see the physiology, you can apply, your ultrasound probe, and you can get that hand-eye coordination. And it's really important now, and COVID has kind of hit the accelerator on that of it's hard to get learners into rooms, and it's hard to get learners into these high acuity situations. Our patients continue to get sicker and sicker and sicker. I can't go a day right now, and even this morning in my ICU, it was, wow, we sure didn't do this 5 years ago. So how do we teach that to the new trainee, and how do we do that safely? And that's by increasing and utilizing this frontier. Technology is also pushing it this way. So, pretty soon we're going to be bathed in Wi-Fi 6E and 5G. And these headsets are going to become smaller, and they're really going to be the standard. Dr. Cosker talked about, the smartphone and how, kids are learning that better. I mean, my daughter on the HoloLens 1 went into mode and something I didn't even know how to do, so she ends up teaching me. So this is going to be the generation that people grow up into. And then, we look at what's our interaction with everybody and what's our learning environment. So we're all sitting here, we're sitting on Microsoft Teams, and we've got a camera on us, and it's just not natural. We're worried, do I have something on my face? How do I look? Just a lot of anxiety that gets in the way of that learning. And so once you put on that headset and you're immersed in this mixed reality, and you're back to as connected as we can be in the COVID era, and, a lot of these unnatural sort of forms of communication, are falling to the wayside, and it's just incredibly powerful. And so I agree, channeling the haptics into this and getting that real, the feel of things, it's just going to be, it's just going to be immense. So it's wildly fun to watch. Congrats to, the HoloLens folks for creating a user interface that a 4-year-old and a 64-year-old can use and find joy in across the spectrum. And so I think the only way forward is forward. And so with a lot of the new metrics that we're going to be able to study, how do people learn, how do we optimize people's learning, how are we efficient, how do we better use that dollar and use that time as medical knowledge increases, it's just going to be incredibly powerful, and really there's no other way forward.
Jared, thank you very much for sharing your insights, and you've said a few things I think that I want to underscore. Really, that sense of that individualized learning and personalized learning. We have when we think back to the last industrial revolution, what was really more of a cookie cutter approach to learning, and now with the opportunity to think about how do we remove barriers and how do we excite once again to bring that joy for learning back to our students so that they are engaged and want to continue with that learning and engage more deeply. That really resonates for me, the insights that you brought to bear there, to bring back that joy and think that this is now the future of learning and we get to live it. So, leaving anyone behind is no longer really an option when we think about bringing that joy back to them in their learning. So thank you. I wonder now if we might turn back, Nancy, if we can turn back to you for a few moments. And if you can share with us maybe just a few more insights around thinking about the impact that you're seeing when we think about this new way of engaging students with a new kind of learning experience that is really immersive. And we heard Dr. Staub talk about it, this immersive experience where they're able to marry both the hand and the mind in this kind of an environment. I wonder if you can share with us a few more insights about what you're seeing in terms of the experience in the educational environment. Oh, you're on mute for us, Nancy.
Thank you. That's a great question, because it was fascinating for me to watch when you walk into the room and you see all these students. They're a little apprehensive. They put the headsets on and they say, well, fine, I'll try it on. And then you see the environment completely changing. They are engaged, they're excited, they lift up visor and they get on the floor on their knees, they look up, they put their head through, they pan in and pan out of the hologram, out of the body. They are truly immersed into the learning environment. And that's what we want to see. They buy it, they learn it. And our guests, our partners mentioned some of the facts that it is effective, it is efficient, and the retention is the biggest thing. They learn and they remember it because it is so visual. They retain information and they remember it for months and months, much longer than any other way of learning it. So that is incredible to us.
Great, thank you. In the last few minutes that we have together, I wonder if we can go to each of our panelists, and I'd love to ask you each a question. You are at the frontier of what is the future of learning, thinking about, as leaders in the area of how to now engage students in what is really the digital future that gets lived now. Wonder if you might share with us, your one or two key themes around what you're seeing as coming next. What are the things that if you were to leave a rallying cry for your colleagues in what is possible for the future of teaching and learning, what is that thing that you're looking to on the frontier that you're hoping that we all might start to use as our rallying cry to do better for our students? So I wonder, maybe to do this, if I can call on you each individually, and perhaps Tom, Cosker, maybe we can start with you.
Well, thanks very much, Alka. Gosh, that's a big question to answer, isn't it? But what an exciting one. I mean, I just think it's so fascinating. I look at my students now with this technology, and they just pick it up so quickly. These are the smartphone generation kids. These are the gamers. These are the smartphone kids. These are the guys who, if they haven't got a Wi-Fi signal when they're on holiday, they're tearing their hair out. They are the connected generation. So I think this is just a natural evolution of that technology. I mean, I only have to look at myself with embarrassment when I'm using the HoloLens, or I'm using my phone or my iPad. I mean, these guys are way ahead of me, but they just pick it up so fast, and their children will pick it up even faster than they do. So this kind of exciting technology is absolutely the future, and all credit to Case Western and to Microsoft for having got it this far. This is where we have to go. And for me as a tumor surgeon, the next stage for me is I want this technology available so that when I look down at the patient's arm or the patient's leg, I can see the tumor. I don't have to rely on the MRI scan or the CT scan. I can just visualize it there so that I can get in there and get the tumor out. So this is hugely exciting. It's an amazing journey, and I'm just so excited to be part of it.
Wonderful. Thank you. Jared, Dr. Staub, I wonder if we can turn to you. I'd love to get your insights on what you're seeing.
I'm glad Dr. Cosker got to go first, so I didn't have to jump on that. Yeah, no, that's a fantastic question, and being as high fidelity as we can be is going to be key, I think, and I think as I remember some of the first procedures I did, it was watch one, do one, train one, and it's like, how we're in a world right now where how was that ever possible? And so, kind of in a field like critical care, ER, a lot of these things where ultrasound is taking off, even in the procedural and interventional procedural suites, strokes, MIs. You never want it to be your first time when seconds count. And so having that high fidelity ability to be able to do that, to get the butterflies out of the way. The other thing it does, and the other next important step is that team training. So as we move from the understanding the information and applying the information, being able to communicate with the team, this is what I see, so how do we do next? Really developing that closed loop communication. So when you can simulate complications, everybody on that team in a procedural suite, in an ICU, in an operating theater, everybody on that team is lockstep. And the ability to do that is powerful. Now we have the ability to do that over a distance. So I might be watching, someone deploy a valve, and I'm in, Kansas City, and somebody else that I'm speaking to is in Miami. And so when we talk about the economics of time, which is so important, and travel, which is so difficult, bringing people together, exchanging ideas, it's only going to hit the accelerator going forward. So, the future, I think is it's very, very bright. There are endless possibilities with the way that this technology is going to go.
Wonderful, thank you. Thayer, I wonder if we might turn to you now.
Certainly, I can't help but thinking that both Dr. Staub and Cosker have pretty much just absolutely nailed it. Those are the things that we're really looking forward to here, exploring how we're going to implement these, especially in our second and third year students. How are we going to bring in some pathology? What are we going to superimpose it upon ourselves? Are we going to superimpose it upon our mannequins that we have? And there's just a lot of just unbelievable things that we're doing now. The NHS presentation with how we're doing kind of hybrid pseudo telemedicine, but with your team to help really make the patient encounter very, very accessible and digestible in times where we're in pandemics and everything is contagious. These are just absolutely wild things if we were 10 years ago, we just couldn't think about it, but now it's just something that we're doing and we're training for. So going forward, I definitely see using this technology, whether it be with mixed reality headsets or our tablets, to put it on top of what we're doing and enhance what we're looking at, and making sure that our outcomes are being met, and that our students and our patients are really able to get the best care they can in the quickest possible way with the most information to be had. So I'm really seeing this go forward that way.
Excellent, thank you. Shruti, maybe I can ask you the same question.
Yes, for us, we are in the realm of enabling this for our subject matter experts here and their learners, right? So definitely we are out there listening to all that they want and supporting and enabling that from a technology standpoint. Top things for us is, yes, content. We want to bring more content that's accessible for learners. We want to see how we can close a gap in bringing the simulation to them as much as possible, especially in this virtual world. So we want to really focus on doing that. And also the ability to really build their own content. Because like everybody agrees on this panel, this is the generation of gamers, right? And this is the best experience for them to delve and dig deeper. So we want to enable them to really go that extra mile in their learning experience, in being able to develop their own learning content and share it with their peers and their colleagues. So definitely this, and the remote proctoring bit that somebody mentioned on this panel, where you're able to facilitate somebody else in a remote space and guide them through a procedure. That's a great place where we would like to focus as well. So yeah, I mean, it's a limitless world of learning out there with mixed reality. I think, Elka, you're on mute.
So Stuart, I'm so excited. You're going to be the last word on what you're seeing from the perspective of the future of learning, and what do you see?
So you're getting even with me for something. I just don't know what it is to make me follow all of these great answers. So I'm not going to answer your question. I'm going to skew it a little bit. So we've talked today about phenomenal tools to train today's medical student. The other part that we have our eyes seriously on is the future of healthcare, its delivery, and where it's going. And of course, none of us is prophetic, but I think there are some there are some things I think we can be pretty comfortable are going to play a major role in these young people's lives throughout their career. So I would just share, we have a course called Future Accelerators of Medicine and Beyond. And of course, it's named that way so we can call it FAB. So it's a FAB course. And it's composed of 4 components, but one of the components, and it's related to this, although I'm pivoting from your question like a politician. One of the components, very substantive, is around artificial intelligence and machine learning. And what we're really doing with that is having these young people comfortable with data sets and how others, not them, they're not computer scientists, how these data sets will be mined potentially in electronic health records, in other venues, genomic sequencing and the like. So you start to marry the technology of today with what we know is going to be powerful in health and healthcare in the future. And it's an exciting time for this marriage, quite frankly. I wish I were younger to watch the marriage, but I'm too tired for that now. So I'll let somebody else run with it. So I didn't answer your question specifically, but I do want to wed the two. It's not just what we're doing in 2021. Quite frankly, what's medicine going to look like in 2040? And it's going to look substantively different than where we are today.
Well, Stuart, I am delighted that you did not answer my question and instead gave us a better insight into the opportunity, not just with mixed reality for engaging students and removing barriers and creating a really engaging, immersive experience, but also thinking about what might be next with AI and data and machine learning. So thank you very much for bringing that lens. So, our dear participants, thank you so much for joining us today. We hope that you have both been inspired and have gained better insights and deeper insights into the opportunities to engage your students with mixed reality. So thank you very much also to our panelists for sharing with us and being innovators and the creators for their students to have a better impact for them as well. I'd like to invite everybody to please join us for the next session in the main event for the Fireside Ask Me Anything with Mark Day and Ori Amiga. Thank you again for joining us today, and thank you again to our panelists.
Thank you.
Thank you.